In this lesson, we will go over the applications of systems of equations and inequalities. So far, we've done the graphing them, solving them by graphing equations, and solving by graphing inequalities. And today, we will go over by the end of this lesson, you will know how to solve these application problems. All right, and they're actually kind of cool. I enjoy them quite a bit. They give what some realness to what we're doing in this lesson, or in this unit, I should say. All right, so for solving these things, it's going to be very similar to what we've done in the past, solving any type of application problem. We only have two new steps, and that's going to be to write the system out and then put that system into decimals. But let's get started with our essential question. It says, how can I solve practical problems involving systems of equations and inequalities? All right, so we've got 6 steps. 2 of those are new. The other 4 are pretty much the same as what we've done before. And so our first step is going to be to read the problem and to make sure we understand all the words. If there's anything in there that we're not quite sure on, we're going to make sure we get some clarification so we can go forward understanding what the problem is asking. All right, next, our next step is going to be to identify what we are being asked to find and assign variables to represent it. Oops. Variables, I-A-B-L-E-S, to represent it, okay? And then step number 3 is going to be to write a system. Let me turn that blue. Click back on that, turn that red. And the reason I want to keep these specific colors is that I'm going to be color coding each of the steps. So we're going to write a system as our step number 3. Write a system of equations or inequalities that models the situation. And then step 4, we are going to put both of these things into decimals. Both of the system, the entire system that we've just made based off the information in the problem, we're going to type that into decimals. And then after we do that, finally, oops, green, there we go. After we do that, we're going to identify our solution, okay? And like I said, these are color-coded. Variables are really important in this. That's why they're red. Writing the system is blue. Decimals is green because that's kind of the color of decimals. Solution is in black because, you know, we want to be able to identify what those points are. And then we're going to explain our solution at the end, okay? So let's look at an example of this. I'll walk you through this one, and then I want you all to try the next one a little bit on your own, and then we'll try the next one kind of together, and then the ones after that you'll do on your own. So number 1 says, a landscaping company placed 2 orders with the nursery. The first order was for 13 bushes and 4 trees and totaled $487. The second order was for 6 bushes and 2 trees and totaled $232. The bills do not list the price per item. What is the cost of a bush? What is the cost of a tree? All right, so here we see it's very clear what they are asking us. They come right out and say, what is the cost of a bush and what is the cost of a tree? That's this part right here. Cost of a bush and cost of a tree. All right, so our first thing is cost of a bush and cost of a tree. To do that, let's go ahead and, as our first thing, we identify what we're being asked to find our variables. Let me go ahead and type that out so we don't get confused in any of these steps. Our first one was cost of bush. And our second one was cost. Oops, I'm gonna do it like that. Cost of a tree. Okay, cost of a bush and cost of a tree. And then we can assign some variables to it. I don't see why we can't just use good old X and Y. So let's use X for the cost of a bush and Y for the cost of a tree, okay? So we got 2 different things. So this is where our system comes from. They had an order that was for 13 bushes and 4 trees, and then it had a second order that was for 6 bushes and 3 trees, okay? So to write this part out, let's go ahead and switch to my equation editor, and then we're gonna do this in, I don't have a blue color here. I'll stick with the pink. All right, when we do this one, our first equation, the first order right here where it says the first order was for 13 bushes and 4 trees. Now, what's my variable for bushes? My variable is X. So I have 13X, 13 bushes. In addition to that, I also have 4 trees. So 13X plus however many trees I had, which was 4. And since I don't know the price of this, that's what we're getting our variables for. That's what the cost is, X and Y. So 13X, because we have 13 trees at some unknown price. And then we have 4 bushes. I'm sorry, 13 bushes at some unknown price. And then 4 trees. 13X plus 4Y. And then it's equal to the total price of that order. So this entire order totaled $487. All right, so that's our first equation in this system. Next, we are our second equation. This one, it says the second order was for 6 bushes and 2 trees. So I have 6 bushes at some cost that I don't know yet, because that's what we're trying to figure out. 6 bushes, so 6X, plus 2 trees at some cost I don't know. So that'll be plus 2Y. And then we have equals. The total cost of that second order was $232, okay? So now that we have these two things set up, we're going to put them into Desmos, all right? And then I'll walk through my process again as I set up Desmos. All right, so once again, we read the question. Let me zoom out a little bit so I can get the entire thing on the screen. All right, so we read the question and we have 2 orders. That's kind of where the system comes from because we have more than one equation. In these orders, we have bushes and trees. We don't know the cost of each of those, but we know how many total were ordered per order, and then the total price. And so we set that up 13X plus 4Y. Our 13 is the number of bushes we ordered in that first order. So 13X plus that 4 number of trees, the price Y, 4Y, is total to 487. So now let's go ahead and type that into Desmos. Once we get this set up, the step 2 done right here in this box, the rest of it is pretty easy. Once again, make sure you turn on your projector mode in Desmos and then also turn on your arrows. I like the reverse contrast. You don't have to use it. It's totally optional. The other 2, I strongly recommend you use those. All right, so we have 13X plus 4Y equals 487. Let's go ahead and type that in. 13X plus 4Y equals 487. And secondly, we have 6X plus 2Y equals 232. So 6X plus 2Y equals 232. All right, so now we've got these 2 equations in, and I actually don't see them, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. There we go. We see that they intersect. It looks like it's about right here. All right, they intersect about right here. And so since this is where they intersect, I have this ordered pair, 2347. And remember, we have an X and a Y, and that correlates with my X and Y that I've assigned my variables to, okay? So we created it up here. I'm gonna put down my ordered pair down here. Let's put that in this black. 2347. Okay, this is the ordered pair I got. 23 is my X value, and 47 is my Y value, and Y. And now look here, my X is my cost of a bush. So each bush costs $23. each tree costs 47. All right, and we got that by first identifying our variables, finding what it was asking for first, then identifying our variables, and using that information to set up our system, and then plugging it into decimals, okay? So that was the whole process. Let's do another one, okay? Let me zoom out a little bit to try and get it all. All right, number 2 says, not Lily, a family, guess I gotta zoom out a little bit more. You know what? There we go. Number 2 says, your family is planning a 7-day trip to Florida. You estimate that it will cost $275 per day in Tampa and $400 per day in Orlando. Your total budget for the 7 days is $2,300. How many days should you spend in each location? Okay. So our goal is to find the total number of days spent in each location. That's this part right here. How many days should we spend in each location? Now remember that we are going to 2 different locations. So we need to find how many days to spend in each of those 2 different locations, okay? So we want to figure out how many days in Tampa and how many days in Orlando. Okay, so let's call the first one X and the second one Y. We're gonna say how many days in Tampa is gonna be X. How many days in Orlando is gonna be Y, all right? So we know that we're going on a trip. Let's move to this next step. So we've just identified our variables and what it is they're asking us to find. Our next step, what color was that? That was blue. Our next step is going to be to assign everything. So we're going on a 7-day trip. So we're going to have a trip for 7 days. We know it's going to be $275 a night, or per day, I should say, in Tampa. In Tampa, and then $400 a day in Orlando. And then we have a total budget. We can't spend more than $2,003 or $2,300, okay? All right, let's do can't spend more. All right, can't spend more than $2,300. And so now we're going to create a system to solve. And here's one that can be a little bit tricky, but if you get going in the right direction, we won't fault you too much on it. And since we can't spend more than $2,300, I could see if you wanted to set both of these less than or equal to 2,300, but we aren't gonna do it that day. Okay, we're not gonna do it that way. And then here's why: because we have a day limit, we have a trip for 7 days, and we have a price limit. Okay, so that day limit is going to be our first system, and then that price limit is going to be our second system. And both of these we're going to use equal signs. So since we can spend 7 days total, we are going to have a system that looks like X plus Y. How many days in Tampa? It's going to be X plus however many days in Florida. Let me make that a little bit bigger. So how many days in Tampa, which is X, plus however many days in Florida, which is Y, totals up to 7. So we can only spend 7 days. We want both of these things to total up to 7. And then we also want our total price to total up to $2,300. And so for Tampa, since we're doing X and that costs $275 a night, we're going to have 275 X number of days in Tampa plus that 400 Y number of days in Orlando is equal to, all of that together has to be equal to 2,300, which is our maximum. Okay, we can't spend more than $2,300 and we can't spend more than 7 days. And so now to figure out what our solution is, we're going to come take these two things and plug them right on over here into Desmos. So in this first one, we have, that shouldn't be, all right, that should be X plus Y is equal to 7, not X plus Y plus 7. That just gets confusing. All right, so here we have these things. Let's go ahead and plug them into Desmos. X plus Y equals 7 is our first equation. And then we have 275X plus 400Y is equal to 2,300. All right. And here we have our two equations. I don't see them, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit more. I'm going to hit that home button to take me right to 0. And here I see a intersection right here. This intersection here is 4, 3. So I'm going to come around this side and write my solution as 4, 3. And what this means, which is the last one of our, or the last step in this process and our steps for solving these application process, is going to be to explain our answer. So this ordered pair 4, 3 means that we can spend 4 days in Tampa and 3 days in Orlando. Okay, and if you're confused as to how I got that, remember my X is with Tampa, each of these. X is how many days in Tampa here. And so my X should still be on that 4. And then my Y is going to be 3. And my Y is how many days in Orlando. So explaining this, we can spend 4 days in Tampa and 3 days in Orlando. I need to move that over a little bit. All right, so there we have it. Now this is the type of thing you're gonna wanna go slow with. There are 3, I believe 3 more problems left on this page. I want you all to get good practice with this using what I've just done as a template. So go ahead, work on those next 3 problems, and I'll be coming to each of you all asking if you need help. And if you need more help and I've already gone to you or haven't gotten to you yet, go ahead and ask for help in the Zoom chat, okay? When you're done with this, go ahead and start working on the classwork that we have today. And if you get stuck at any point, please ask a question and we'll come and help.